Janice Franklin, and I'm standing here with Lamar Livingston, who is the technical director for the Morton H. Meyerson Symphony Center in Dallas. Hi, Lamar.
Glad to be here, glad to be part of this project.
Yes, we're excited about this. The Meyerson is such an important center, so why don't you start and introduce our guest to this wonderful facility?
Well, the Morton H. Meyerson Symphony Center was designed by I.M. Pei, was the architect, and actually several years ago the Dallas Symphony put together a group who went out to research other concert halls in the world that they wanted to model this new concert hall after. And so they selected I.M. Pei as the architect. They also selected Russell Johnson of Artec, who was the acoustician for the concert hall, and the two of them worked together on this project. There's a lot of contrast that you'll see, I guess, in this video between the lobby, which is all of this beautiful white marble and the Indiana limestone, and then you've got the warmth of the concert hall inside. There's something that you and I were talking about a couple of minutes ago, which is the fact that we have our physical plant just behind us here, underneath the ground, underneath the park, actually, Betty B. Marcus Park over there, and it's in a separate building so that we have noise and vibration control, so that we don't get any of that noise from the air conditioning systems, any air compressors, anything that makes noise in the way of vibration, anything with a motor. So it's all floated on a separate pad and separate from this building under the ground. So it's a very fascinating design.
And that's really important because the Meyerson Center is located in the heart of downtown Dallas,
Right,
but it's
right.
also in the flight path of Dallas Love Field
Oh
Airport.
yeah, right there. We have planes that come over every day, several times a day.
Yes.
So there's special care that was given to the roof, so that there is very thick rooftop, and then an attic space, and then a very thick floor for that attic space that is the floor, or the ceiling of the concert hall overhead. So therefore none of that overhead noise gets into the concert hall. So everything's protected in the concert hall. There are antechambers, which are basically small rooms that you enter through to get into the concert hall, the doorways that you go in. There's a small room that you have doors on the lobby side that close behind you, and then doors that open to get into the concert hall. So there's always a way to sort of buffer the noise that's going on out here. We have a lot of catered events out here as well, so it's not uncommon for our catering crew to be setting up or taking down tables and chairs and so forth, and making a lot of racket out here while we've got a very quiet concert going on in the concert hall, and you'd never know it. You'd never know it. They did a great job with the noise and vibration control. Out here, we do have some beautiful public artwork. We have the Ellsworth Kelly piece, and that is a nice little burst of color in the lobby to contrast with all this white marble. Basically, the lobby is just very simple geometry. It's squares, rectangles, triangles, and circles. And it's just a very beautiful way that the line works throughout the space to lead your eye. I think Mr. Pei is a master at that. First thing that's important about the concert hall is the size and shape of the room and the materials that are used. This was modeled after a couple of other concert halls in Europe, which are shoebox-shaped halls. They're very narrow, they're very tall, they're not that long. We seat 2,062, and that's the number of seats we have, including the Coral Terrace upstage, which is a real different kind of place to sit. But anything downstage out in the house, you have a really great perspective on the performance. The materials were selected for reflective properties. We have the marble floor in the concert hall. We have more of that Indiana limestone that's reflecting sound. The parallel walls are very, very, very important. I'll just try to sum this up as quickly as I can. You have sound that is direct, that's coming from the stage out to the listener's ears. And then you have early reflections that bounce off of these walls and also arrive at the listener's ears at almost the same time that the direct sound does. So therefore the listener is impacted with sound all at one time. So that's why there's such great clarity in the McDermott Concert Hall, is you've got all these reflective materials working for you so well with the parallel walls. And the wood, it's an African Macquarie wood, it's a cherry wood, it's a very, very thin veneer that is glued with epoxy glue to all of the concrete walls so that there are no air pockets, so you don't lose bass. The seats are upholstered with mohair, which was selected specifically because it doesn't absorb as much sound. So when we've got the Dallas Symphony or another group, one of our groups that consider the Meyerson their home, such as the Turtle Creek Chorale or Dallas Wind Symphony, Greater Dallas Youth Orchestra, some of those groups, we have these curtains extended so that it simulates the same type or similar type of absorption that our bodies do. Our clothing, our hair absorbs sound. So that way the artistic leader, whether it's the conductor or their assistant, and our staff can actually work together during that rehearsal to know how we want to fine-tune those acoustics for the performance. The last thing to point out would be the canopy, the acoustical canopies that are over the stage, which are probably the most dominant visual features when you walk in the room. They're beautiful. The main canopy kind of looks like a spaceship. I hear a lot of people. The Star Trek, yes, yes. It has several purposes. First of all, it's providing a way for musicians to hear themselves. It's also providing a way for them to hear one another as the sound goes up and bounces off of the canopy and comes back to the stage. It has a little bit of a concave section in the middle that helps to bounce that sound back to the stage. It also helps to bounce sound from the stage up and out to the main floor, the orchestra floor. So those are the main purposes. And in fact, it has a tilt on it. We can tilt the main canopy up to 7 degrees so that we can get that sound to fall in just the right place. Typically we run it at 4 degrees is what we have found works best. There are also side canopies and a rear canopy that move up and down. It'll go as low as 35 feet off the deck and goes up to about 75 feet. So we can expose the organ pipes if we want the canopy up really high to get a really big room sound. Basically that's what we're doing. We are tailoring the size of the room with that canopy. Small room with it really low, say at 40 feet for a recital with piano and violin or voice. So we're creating a very small room. And in that case, we would close the reverb chamber doors so that we're creating a nice recital hall, very small, intimate recital hall. The other things to kind of mention about the canopies are that the main canopy is 42 tons. Yeah, it's huge. Side canopies, I think, are 15 tons, and the rear is 12 tons. They're very safe, I have to say that. The company who did all of the rigging design and built these, it's very safe. Typically, with any kind of rigging design like that you're hanging over the public's head, you want a 5-to-1 ratio on your cables. So that means you could hold 5 of these things for every 1 cable that you're suspending it with. Well, they went with more like a 13-to-1 ratio. So it's very safe. I'm told that the canopy could be held up by, I don't know, 6 or 8 of those cables. The room was actually modeled after the Concertgebouw in Amsterdam, and maybe I said that wrong, Concertgebouw, I'm not sure, and the Musikvereinssaal in Vienna. They are also shoebox-shaped halls. So that's the main description of our adjustable acoustics. A lot of people like to jump to the description of tunable, tuning the room, and I may have said that earlier, but you don't really tune it per se. Where tuning implies more of tuning a note, like you would tune a piano to make sure that the frequency is correct, and we don't really go for frequency tuning here, but we're going for adjustment of the size and space and the reflections.
You're really tuning the soundscape. with
Yes,
your
yes. And you know, there are a lot of opinions about whether the canopy should be higher that day for that, or that weekend for that music that's being performed, or should it be lower and everything speaking more quickly and clearly. It's not a very forgiving room. If a musician is playing something that they are not totally familiar with, and they're sight reading something,
Everybody's
I guess
going to know.
everyone's going to know, because your mistakes will really stick out there.
Yes.
Fortunately, we never really hear that. We have some fabulous musicians, of course, with the Dallas Symphony Orchestra and all the other groups that visit here, and right on down to our children's groups like the Children's Chorus of Dallas and Greater Dallas Youth Orchestra.
They're
just
amazing.
amazing musicianship in this area that visits this concert hall.
I've never been in this space. When I was frequenting the building earlier with students, I don't think this room was here.
Well, there were a lot of spaces beneath the concert hall that were finished out after the building opened. And, you know, I didn't mention this, the building opened in 1989. And it must have been, you know, I'm not sure, 94 or 95, 93 or 94, I think, maybe, that this space was built out. This is our chorus rehearsal room. And it is pretty much right below the stage, okay? So we've got above the ceiling here a lot of space where you could have the potential for a chorus of 200 to be making a lot of sound, a lot of decibels that have to be buffered between here and there. So a lot of care was taken in the design with the way that this ceiling is hung from springs, and the way that it's attached so that there's no vibration that gets out of this room to transfer up to the concert hall overhead. Because again, like I said earlier, we might have a very quiet piece going on stage and then noise down here and you don't hear it.
This is one of my favorite spots in the place, and it's because it's where the musicians live. I love the visual of having their personal photographs on their lockers, because that says so much about the space. It says that they recognize it as sort of an extended
Oh
home.
yeah, this is their home away from home.
A place, and they become real, because so often I think from the perspective of the audience, the orchestral players are just simply the third violinist from the left.
Right.
Or the bassoonist in the back. And here they get to be real people, and so when you see the vacation pictures or the photographs of the puppy,
Right.
it
Or drawings that their kids did
Yes.
in kindergarten or whatever that would otherwise be on the refrigerator.
Right.
They're here to, you know, be that home away from home.
Right.
So yeah, all the instruments that the Dallas Symphony uses, most of them are stored here when they're not performing, or when they're not practicing at home, put it that way. And so we have climate control that's really important for the backstage area, keeping a humidity level of at least 50%, and somewhere between 50 and 60, I believe, is what we aim for. Because those older wooden instruments, the violins, cellos, violas, and basses, can crack if it gets too dry in this space. And I'm told by some of the visiting groups that we have a pretty nice backstage area in terms of the space. We've got plenty of real estate here, so that's something we're really proud of. Something else that I was going to point out to you that's really cool, I think. You've got this area back here with the lockers, and this is immediately backstage. There's stage left, there's stage right, here's upstage where the percussionists enter. But if someone needs to go warm up a little bit before they go on, and maybe they're not playing first half, they're playing in the second half, there is a hallway behind all of this area that has little windows and a little corner for each window that they can go and warm up, and they can hear themselves reflected in that corner, and there's a little place where they put their music, and it's the crossover hallway where people can make noise back there outside of this space and then come on in and they're ready to go on stage. This is our Harp tuning module. It's really just a little soundproof booth. You might be able to make out a harp that's in there. This way the harpist can come in, tune their instrument while there's something going on stage, and maybe we've got these doors behind you open that are where the percussionists enter the stage. And that way we never hear this harp being tuned out there. I'm thinking maybe someday if we ever have a game show in here, we'll use it as our secret booth for our contestants. I love watching a group of kids who haven't been in here yet walk on stage and they look around and they're just, you know, kind of takes their breath away, and they're in awe of seeing this beautiful room, and then they hear themselves sing and or play, and they stop and they hear that reverb. Yeah. And watching them, it still kind of gives me a little chill, and it's really rewarding to see that. Yes. It's great.